Hello everyone, welcome to Liam's Lyceum. I'm your host Liam, aka Hemvar, and today I'm doing a video that I like to do every year, and I really enjoy doing it every year I get around to it, and that is my most read authors video. I've done this since 2021, so I have a video for 2021, 2022, 2023, and now 2024. So I believe I originally got this idea from Jeremy Fee on the Jeremy Fee channel, and the list has shifted over the years, so it's kind of fun. To see where it shifts. I don't take like extensive notes to see exactly where it shifts. I think most important is just what I've read the most, kind of. But these are pretty much, for the most part, authors I really like. What's funny actually is that generally the top of this list is that's not exactly the case. We'll see what it looks like this year. Um, some honorable mentions that didn't quite make it onto the list this time. I've read 7 books by Lavi Tidar, 7 by Howard Andrew Jones, 7 by Roger Zelazny. I've read 8 by Aaron M. Evans and 8 by David Farland. And then, 6 and 5 by several other authors. But I just thought those deserved some mentioning. But I won't go into too into depth with them. Aaron M. Evans was on the list last year. I planned to read Relics of Ruin or whatever, but I haven't actually gotten into it yet. So I haven't read anything by her since the last time I filmed this. So at number 10 is I have a huge stack of books here because I thought it'd be good to show off some. I have Christopher Accio. His Empire of Silence, of course, first book in Sun Eater. That's pretty much all he's written. I have 9 books read by him. That's his 3 novellas read, 3 novellas, and the 6 books out in Sun Eater so far. I read this back in 2021 before I started my channel, and I would now just say I'm friends with Christopher, but still very enjoyable series. Definitely a booktube darling, but I would argue it's still worth most people's times anyways. So yeah, everything I read by him was one series, besides the one short story that was not included in Sun Eater, or that's not part of Sun Eater. At number 9, I actually have 2 number 9s because they're tied with 11 books read. The first one is Steven Erikson. I'm hoping to read more, this number to be bigger at the end of the year, but we'll see. So I just have Gardens of the Moon here. Everything I've read by Erikson has been Malazan. Of course, I've read his 8 books in Malazan Book of the Fallen. I have not read Dust of Dreams or Crippled God yet. And I've also read 3 of Book Lane and Corporal Brooch. So I count novellas, if that wasn't obvious. I count novellas. I don't count novelettes or short stories. Novellas are often published in book form, and so that's pretty much what I'm counting. The books I've read by authors. So I'm a big fan of Erikson. Again, someone I'll probably read more of in the future. Another one that I would like to read more of in the future, but I've pretty much read everything by him that I would like to read. I mean, he's written some Star Wars stuff that I haven't read and probably never will. But that is Paulus Kemp. This is the first book I ever read by him, Forgotten Realms, Shadow's Witness, which is part of his Erebus Kale series, which is like 8 books, I think, which is what got his number up so high, because the other 3 books after the reading of 8 in this series was the 3 Aeol and Nyx books, starting with The Hammer and the Blade, and then ending with A Conversation in Blood, which I actually recently reviewed. So I don't know. He'll probably stay there for a while, unless he comes out with another Aeol and Nyx novel, and he's probably never going to come out with another Forgotten Realms novel, sadly, but we can dream, I guess. At number 8, and 8 might be my most, I have a ton of number 8s. I think I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5. Okay. So at the bottom of that is Jack Vance. I've read 12 books. He's up from the 10th spot last year. This is the only Vance book I found when I was looking on my shelves. My shelves are not organized right now. I haven't reorganized them since I moved. This is Maduk, which is the 3rd book in the Leoness trilogy. Very, very good series you should read. If I were to read more of Vance, I'm not even sure what I'll read next, to be honest. I recently finished The Demon Princes. Maybe Planet of Adventure, or maybe I'll reread The Dying Earth. It's been a while since I've read The Dying Earth, like that book. I've read Eyes of the Overworld and the one somewhat recently. It's been a couple of years, but still somewhat recently. Feels somewhat recent. Dying Earth seems a little farther off. So, anyways, Vance is a phenomenal author that is not super popular these days, but he's not lost in obscurity, which is nice. Sorry, I apologize for that. And he's pretty well liked, I feel like, by a lot of other authors. Also at number 8 with 12 books read is Tracy Weiss and Tracy Hickman and Margaret Weiss. Wow, okay, Tracy Weiss. Anyways, no, I'm gonna hold up Dragonwing here because I've read Actually, this whole series, the Deathgate Cycle, by them, and I've read 5 Dragonlance novels. I have more Dragonlance to read by them in particular. The only Dragonlance stuff I've read is actually by them. But this is a more unique, in a sense, fantasy. It still has like kind of D&D-esque races going on, but it kind of goes somewhere interesting with world building, and it does a decent job. So I finished that series last year, I believe. I think my reviews probably came out sometime this year. And then also at number 8 with 12 books read, and up from a 9th place spot last year, is Gene Wolfe. And what's funny, actually, is I'm reading a Gene Wolfe book right now. So if I had finished it, he would not be in number 8. But anyways, here's The Shadow of the Torture, which is the first book in Book of the New Sun. Highly recommend. Highly recommend. I definitely plan on rereading this one at some point. This was my favorite book in 2021, I believe, when I did my top 10. Anyways, so yes, superb. Everything he writes is superb and very in-depth and interesting and makes you think. Also, with 12 read at number 8 is Joel Shepherd, who writes The Spiral Wars and who writes Cassandra Kreznov and the one fantasy series I don't have and haven't read. So, by the way, with Wolfe, I've read Book of the New Sun, Book of the Long Sun, and I'm almost done with Book of the Short Sun, reading Return to the World now. I've also read, and I am planning on reading The Wizard Knight actually here before the year is out, and I've read The Fifth Head of Cerberus, and have some other ones I want to read too. But anyways, Renegade is the first book in Spiral Wars, which is a self-pub space opera series. One of my favorite science fiction series that's ongoing right now. I think I've read 9, but yeah. So the 9th book came out earlier this year, Homecoming. I already read that, and I've read the first 3 Cassandra Kreznov novels, and there's 3 more. Again, recommend. He doesn't really have any attention actually on BookTube, not really at all, but can recommend. The last number 8 spot with 12 read is DJ Butler. Dave, again, someone like Christopher Rocchio. I read his books, very much enjoyed him. Now I would say he's my friend. But this is still, I think this book right here is something that a lot of people could get behind on BookTube. He's got a lot of varied and very good stuff in general, but this is epic fantasy, and a lot of people like epic fantasy on BookTube. So epic fantasy, but early 19th century, like America, and it's very different, alternate, magical world. Very, very entertaining. I read this one a while ago. Not even sure when I did. I don't know, 2020 maybe, 2019 maybe, 2020. I don't know. It's been a minute. So that's it for the number 8. Finally, get to number 7. I actually only have 2 from this number 7 spot. Up last year from the 10th spot is Troy Denning. I'm not a huge fan of Troy Denning. I think he's very hit or miss, but I read a lot of Forgotten Realms novels, and I read a lot of other stuff. Like I wanted to try Planescape novels, and I wanted to try Dark Sun stuff, so I ended up reading more Troy Denning. So this is one of my favorite novels by him, Crucible, The Trial of Sirik the Mad, which is the 5th and final book in the Avatar saga. But I've read 2 Halo books by him. I've read, let's see, The Faces of Deception, The Parched Sea, The Veiled Dragon, Waterdeep, this book, The Sentinel, Beyond the High Road, Death of the Dragon. Those are all Forgotten Realms, and I've read Verdant Passage and Crimson Legion by him, and Dark Sun, and then Pages of Pain and Planescape. So pretty much all franchise fiction, like IP fiction or whatever you want to call it. And then another book, or another author at the 7th spot with 13 books read. Again, one that hasn't changed in years, and these are often on my list. You'll note that they kind of barely shuffle around. That's Rick Riordan. Actually, this is one of the first books I ever got signed. I think it might have been the first book I ever got signed. House of Hades, wasn't even a big fan, I guess. I much prefer Percy Jackson over this. But I'm not in middle school anymore, and so I don't really read Riordan. I didn't read any of the other series after that one, and I don't know if I ever will. So I would be surprised if I did. I've also read the Kane Chronicles, though. So that comes up to 13. 5-book series, 5-book series plus 3-book series. So anyways, at number 6, the only person in number 6, and I don't actually have a book because I read these all when I first got into Kindle reading years ago, and that's Kate Tiernan Sweep series, which is 14 books. They're all pretty short. Again, this is one author I haven't read in years. I don't even know if she wrote anything else, and I probably will never read anything else by her. But Kate Tiernan, I've read 14 books by her. At number 5, I have J.R.R. Tolkien, also kind of included with Christopher Tolkien, because Christopher is the one, his son, that really brought a lot of these books out for publishing. And I just grabbed Beowulf here. Tolkien is my favorite author of all time. So highly recommend. The thing that Tolkien has been really good for me is that not just broadening my idea of like fantasy fiction, but also just like language and scholarship in general, right? I mean, I go to school and I study things, and it would not be what I was studying. The school probably wouldn't exist, in fact, if it wasn't for Tolkien. So, anyways. And he is the only one I have at number 5. So we had 1, 6, and 1, 5. But at number 4, we have 2 authors once again. We have Michael Moorcock. I've read 16 books by Michael Moorcock. I've read about 15-ish from Tolkien. I kind of put an ish on the end there. This is the next one I will read. So this is book 2 in his Dancers at the End of Time series. I like it's a red spine. I think about it. I've read pages, rather. I read... when did I read? It's been a minute. I think it's been like a year and a half since I read the first book in this series, and that's the last time I read a Michael Moorcock book. So I need to read more by Moorcock. I mean, he's been pretty high up on my list, but like I said, I haven't read anything by him for a minute. I like Moorcock. He's not a favorite. So I mean, I have this. I have the final program I want to read by him. I have the first book in the second Corum trilogy. I have Behold the Man, I think. I was going to read with Evie. But yeah, I've read the 9 Elric books, the 3 Dream Quest books that are also Elric pretty much, the 3 Corum books, and then the first Dancers book. Hey, at 16, in the 4th spot as well, right, with 16 books read. He's down, actually, from the number 3 spot. So someone has moved. Someone I have not... No, I read 1 book since I started this channel by him. That's Robert Jordan. Kind of a hit or miss author for me. The last book I read was Conan the Invincible. I'd read all the Wheel of Time before I started this channel. And this is the first Wheel of Time book. I'm not a huge fan. I'm not. I'm not going to sit here and act like I hated it. I read the whole thing. I do believe the slog is real. And I will not say anything else besides that, I guess. So, yeah, that's number 4. So at number 3, I only have 1 number 3 as well. And this is actually up from the number 7 spot, which is great because this is one of my favorite authors of all time, actually, as well. Besides maybe... But after Tolkien, it might be like Gene Wolfe and this guy. And that's Fritz Leiber. This is Swords Against Death, one of his Fafhrd and Grey Mouser bind-ups. This is the copy I actually got from my buddy Jerry, which is nice because my other copy is a little bit more beat up than this and also has a cigarette ad in it. But this is still a lovely edition. And I like my other one too, but the other one's slightly older edition. But just amazing author. I just can't get enough of the guy, honestly. I was reading one of his short stories today. And he just always surprises me, whether he's writing horror or sci-fi or fantasy or whatever it is. I'm not nearly as funny as Leiber, but I do definitely aspire in some ways to be kind of like Leiber. Very interesting guy, whether that be his time in the seminary, his time in Hollywood, his time playing chess, his time fencing. I don't know. The guys are super interesting. So I've read his 7 Fafhrd and Grey Mouser books, which is 7 of the 17. I've also read Gather Darkness by him, Our Lady of Darkness, The Big Time, The Green Millennium, The Night of the Long Knives, The Wanderer, Ship of Shadows, Conjure Wife, Destiny Times 3, and The Dealings of Daniel Keswick. Yeah. So, and there are a few more things I still want to read by him that are longer works even. So hopefully he goes up here in the next year. At number 2, I have 2 number 2s this year. If you've watched the other ones, then you'll know who one of these guys is, and then who's number 1. But the new number 2, who's up from number 5 spot, is Ed Greenwood. This is his first Elminster book, Elminster: The Making of a Mage. A decent place to start in Forgotten Realms if you're interested. I really enjoyed this book. This is one of those books where I enjoyed a lot when I read it, but I enjoyed it even more in hindsight. Very big fan of it. I think Ed Greenwood's a little bit of a hit or miss author, but he's someone I really enjoy as a person. He is the creator of Forgotten Realms. I've talked to him, actually. I've interviewed him on my channel here. So, wonderful author. Definitely someone I will read more of as well. Hopefully he goes up. But right now I've read 18 books by him. I've also read 18 books by this guy, who I'm not a big fan of. R.A. Salvatore is my number 2 spot. He's been my number 2 spot the entire time. Now he's tied with Ed Greenwood. But I'm not a huge fan of R.A. Salvatore, but I made a goal to read all the Forgotten Realms novels, and R.A. Salvatore has written more than anyone else, I think. So that's just the way it is. So this is the last one I read by him. I don't even remember when that was. I should probably read more because I need to keep moving on my quest, but he's okay, I guess. I mean, I think he's someone I could potentially recommend to certain people, but generally I just don't recommend him. I think there's better things out there, even if you want Forgotten Realms novels, like, and that's just what you want. But if you just want like a novel, easy, campy things, there's better things out there. And at number 1 is an author I haven't read. Let's see. The last time I read something by him was a year and a half ago, and that was the first time in like 2 or 3 years. And I haven't read any of his like big recent releases. I haven't read Lost Metal, or I'm not even sure I'm going to read Windsor Truth. I didn't finish that whatever little sci-fi YA series was, but yeah, The Way of Kings right here, Brandon Sanderson. I've read 24 books by him. I was big into Brandon Sanderson before I started my channel. I don't hardly ever mention him on my channel because I haven't read anything really by him since I started my channel. He's really not the type of fantasy I like to read anymore. I do think there's some things I can appreciate about Brandon Sanderson at this point still, but I very much drifted away from most of the mainstream fantasy in general and found a niche that I enjoy more, which is generally showcased by the rest of these authors on the list and not really by Brandon Sanderson. But that is the guy I've read the most books by. So this one actually came out on the 10th, I think, which is the first time I ever released this. I think it came out on the 10th, but I'm not sure about that. So anyways, that's it. Let me know what your favorites of these books are and of the authors or books written by those authors, and what authors you've read the most by. So, this doesn't include some things maybe I read as a kid, but I can't remember most of that stuff. So anyways, Liam from Liam's I'll catch you next time.